Hi, guys. Welcome to the chat. How are you guys doing? Let me go back and see who's all commenting. I just got out of a session. I had to take like a 2-minute breather. And so I'm looking on here and you guys are wonderful because I'm looking at what you're saying. Here's blessed in every area of my life. Welcome to the chat. So glad to have you. Says hi, Tamara. We missed you last night. Hopefully all is well. See you shortly. Yes, thank you so much. I missed you guys too. Last night was simply one of those days where everything that I could imagine was going wrong, and not with me personally, but with my clients. And then when I planned to do my live last night, then I realized I'm exhausted and I just need to do some self-care. So I ended up going home and just kind of taking a nap, like passing out. I was so tired. So glad to be back tonight. Always glad to see you guys. Ronald Zion, welcome to the chat. So glad to have you. Says blessings, family. Annabis, the opener of ways. Hello, welcome to the chat. Glad to see you as well. Forgive and move on. I love that. Oh my God. Welcome to the chat. So glad to have you as well. Crystal, hello. Tanya Turner, welcome. Hello back to you. Cherry's Jubilee, so glad to see you. Karen Yu, wonderful. Welcome to the chat. Glad to see you. Shalom. My best friend, actually, and I've never mentioned this on my channel before, my best friend was Jewish in college. I went to a small little suburban, I guess you could say it was like an upper class, kind of a rich college. And it was such a blessing because I got a chance to really connect with people from different walks of life and faith, and the list goes on. And so I would say shalom to my best friend in college all the time. So you remind me of that every time you say that. Aesthetic Beauty, hello, welcome to the chat. Citizen Kang, welcome to the chat. Glad to have you. I don't remember seeing you, so welcome. Krista B, Auntie Lou, so glad to see you. Jennifer H, so glad you found my channel as well. Welcome. Thank you so much for that. Glad to have you as well. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and jump in, okay? Because I'm gonna wrap up around 9:30ish. I'm tired, to be very honest, and I need a little bit of self-care, I think, again tonight. But let's jump into this topic of reparenting yourself. So here's how this topic kind of came about. I've been talking a lot on this channel recently about traumatic bonding and just kind of having these really emotionally detached and immature parents, individuals who just can't seem to give of themselves to their children, their adult children, their young children. And someone had emailed me several times over the course of the past 2 months. And, they've been kind of sharing their story with me, and I replied back. And, they kind of gave me some background of all the different things they've been through. And one thing I brought up to her last week during the consultation we had was, if you've grown up in a household where there's trauma, or if you've grown up in a household where you have a very narcissistic parent, and narcissism is like on a spectrum, right? So here's a visual really quickly. One, not very impactful for you, I guess I could say that. Not very negative, maybe they're a little bit vain, a little bit shallow, they think they're wonderful, but it's not bad, you can tolerate it. 10 is, my narcissistic parent has destroyed my entire childhood, my entire life. So on that spectrum, and that's just a made up spectrum, but there is a spectrum of narcissism, and we can all fall along that spectrum. So anyway, I said to her, I said, it just depends on where your parent is on that spectrum. That's going to determine how much you've been impacted. And she said, is there any way that I could heal from this? And I said, you know what? The best way to heal is to learn how to reparent yourself. And there's not a ton of literature in the field of psychology on reparenting yourself. So, you can go ahead and Google it, and you're probably not going to find much. But I have seen a little bit of research on that. You can also pick out books like Bonded to the Abuser. If you just go to Amazon, go ahead and type in Bonded to the Abuser. Adult Children of Emotionally Detached Parents. That's another book that you can go check out on Amazon. Those two books kind of pull a little bit from research, and they give you that information on how to reparent yourself. Reparenting yourself is really a process, and I think in some ways, and I hate to say this because I'm totally not a fan of Sigmund Freud. I appreciate some of his theories, but not all of them, guys. But Sigmund Freud kind of, he kind of sparked this flame in the field of psychology by helping us understand the impact of childhood relationships with their parents and childhood trauma on the adult child. And what he did is, he created this whole theory, this whole psychodynamic theory around childhood trauma and insecurities and fear of abandonment and poor attachment, and the list goes on. And he basically said this, that almost every experience that a child has creates an adult who is needy. They have some kind of insecurity, they have some kind of mental health problem, they have some kind of relational issue, whatever. It all stems from childhood. So the whole idea of reparenting yourself, for me, and possibly in research as well, kind of stems from Sigmund Freud, because what he's saying is that your childhood has been either tarnished by or disrupted by whatever has happened to you in your childhood. And so reparenting yourself is the process of giving yourself what you absolutely did not get as a child. So that's reparenting yourself. You want to think of reparenting as a way to repair what has been tarnished, what has been destroyed, what has been disrupted. And unfortunately, we don't have a manual that says, do this and do that and do this, and you're going to be reparented. So, really, my work in this area, the work of my colleagues, and some research on reparenting yourself makes a variety of suggestions. And I'm going to give you those suggestions in this live chat tonight, so that we can kind of go through some of that. Let me mention basically the three parts of the reparenting phase. And then I'm going to go ahead and get back to the chat box because I see you guys just commenting away. So I love when you do that. So thank you so much for that participation. But let me give you the three phases, of reparenting yourself. One is really delving into who you are as an adult, right? Who are you in your world? Are you the hard worker? Are you the one who holds everyone else together? Are you the one who puts yourself secondary or last? Are you very driven? Are you motivated? Are you unmotivated? Are you depressed? Are you anxious? What kind of adult are you in your world? How are you existing, having had a childhood that wasn't that great, right? So you want to look at, how am I existing in my world as it stands right now in this moment? What kind of adult am I? The second phase is really looking at what we call the inner child. And the inner child is basically that small part of you that hasn't been raised, that hasn't been nurtured, that hasn't been loved, that hasn't been supported. And so that inner child kind of gets buried beneath that adult, right? That adult that you are existing as in the world, that inner child gets buried beneath that. But that's exactly what you want to be paying attention to when you're trying to reparent yourself, because really what you're targeting is your emotional age. Okay, let me go back because I know that can be a little complicated. You really want to focus on one important component in reparenting yourself, which is focusing on your emotional age. I just shared this with a client 3 or 4 days ago, and she was like, "Oh my God, a light bulb just went off." And she's like, "I literally did not think that my emotional age was different from my chronological age." And I told her, "Oh, absolutely, right? You may be 45, you may be 65, but whatever that inner child has gone through and it hasn't been healed, it hasn't been reparented, right? That inner child is just stuck in there and it's trying to survive. And in some people, it's deadened, right? Because you have to be an adult and you have to function and you have to do things. So that hurt, abused, traumatized, mistreated, maltreated, whatever you want to call it, child, that inner child, we don't really pay that much attention to it, right? because we have to be adults in the world. So she was kind of shocked. It was like a light bulb moment for him. She's like, oh my God, I've been spending almost 25 years wondering what's wrong with me. And in this moment, that makes so much sense. My emotional age is different from my chronological age. A lot of research in the field of psychology suggests this, that if you were traumatized or mistreated at a particular age as a child, that is exactly where your emotional age is. So let's say, for example, you have been traumatized as a 5-year old, then your inner child emotional age is probably 5 years old. Now, a lot of research doesn't back up that theory, but most of it does. And it highlights the importance of being aware of when your trauma began and when your trauma began to truly affect you, because that's going to give you a clue into your emotional age. Now, the third component of reparenting yourself is either to become a new parent to yourself, or two, find somebody who can kind of contribute to your world in that way. Here's what I'm saying. You can either build that new person within you and strengthen that person within you in such a way that you become the parent you never had. And I'm going to give you some tips tonight on how to do that based on the field, based on my own work in this area. But you can actually become that parent that you never had. You can also become the parent that you've never had to your own child. That is also healing in some ways. And or what the field highlights the most is that you can actually rely on somebody who can kind of hold space. In psychology, we call it holding space, or kind of filling that void, or holding the emotions and the thoughts and the feelings and the behaviors and all of that you're going through at a certain time. You can find somebody that can hold all of that for you while you explore what's going on with you. For most people, that's a really good therapist. A lot of my kiddos that come to my practice, I serve in that role with them, of course, with proper and professional boundaries, but they do rely on me. They do text me when they're having a bad day at school. They do come to me crying and asking for a hug. They do come to me with journal entries and share the deepest thoughts and feelings that they have with me. So sometimes you can rely on your therapist as that quote unquote surrogate parent that you never had, as long as it has boundaries and it is healthy. So this is the first phase of reparenting yourself, being aware of the adult that you are in today's world. Who are you now? The inner child or your emotional age. And three, that parent that you never had. How can you contribute to yourself in a way that says it's okay that you didn't have this kind of a parent, but now you can. Okay, I'm going to pause here. I'm going to go to the description box. Oh my God. Okay. Oh God, I'm so behind. Krista B says, thank you for your channel. Appreciate your work. You're welcome. Welcome. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate hearing that. That helps me every time you guys reinforce me. That helps me know what direction to go in, because there are times I spend one day just planning my content for you and trying to make it logical, so you're not getting a bunch of videos all at once. So I appreciate that. That helps me out a lot. Okay, let's keep going. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, wait, okay, Auntie Lou says, oh, okay, let me go back to blessed in every area of my life says, I'm reparenting myself at 40 plus. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes the reparenting phase can kick in, like that reparenting. We can also call it in some ways post-traumatic growth. All of that can happen at any age, but for most people it's an age where they are mature. It's an age where they have come into the light, their eyes have been opened, they have been awakened, they're illuminating certain things in their own world, right? So 40 plus is fantastic for this reparenting phase, because you might be at a stage where you're so much more mature, you get things better. And so therefore that's going to be really healing for you at your age, because you're mature. So hopefully that was some encouragement for you. Auntie Lou says, my parents were teenagers when they had me, definitely immature. I raised myself. Yeah, absolutely. And let me just say, as much as I love my dear grandmother, who passed away 2 years ago, I I will say that there were a lot of instances where my mom and my uncle raised themselves, and unfortunately, uh, that created some emotional needs and voids over the years, and both of them that I think still impacts their world. No parent, no child, excuse me, wants to parent themselves or raise themselves, and I don't care how independent maybe you want to be as an adolescent, you still need your parents. So that's traumatic in and of itself, for sure. Cherish Jubilee says, mine were young and evil or dead. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Having an evil parent or a mean, cold parent, I'm coming up with a video about that soon. So stay tuned for that. That is very disruptive. And that is the kind of childhood trauma that Sigmund Freud was getting at when he came up with the theory that most of our issues stem from childhood. So, Citizen King says the other part of honor thy parents that religious narcissist parents get convenient amnesia on is that parents must give children something to honor. Yes. Love it. Okay, I'm like, wait a minute, did I miss something? I like that a lot. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna get my hair out of the way. I like that a lot because religion can hurt and it can help, and I live my life based on Christian principles. I was raised in a Christian family. My grandfather is a pastor of 35 years. The list goes on. My mom, she does spiritual work. The list goes on. So I'm really familiar with that scripture: honor thy mother, thy father. But there's also scripture that says, provoke not thy child. And so my mom and my older brother, they used to go neck and neck with that. But religion can hurt and it can help. And I like that you point out that parents have to give children something to honor. You know, I think this just boils down to proper interpretation of the scripture. You can't just say, honor thy mother and thy father, and thy days will be plenty. That's the full scripture, without really looking at the fact that not every parent is honorable. Those of us who live in my state, we just had a situation recently, and then I'm going to jump into the content. So hang tight. We had a situation in my state recently where a mother left her 3-month-old baby, her 1-month-old, 3 months, I'm sorry, 1-year-old, and then she also had a 5-year-old that she left in a running car while she ran into the grocery store. And she was in there a while. Child Protective Services, the police were involved. I was contacted. The list goes on. But that's the kind of parent that you shouldn't say, to the child, honor thy mother, because she's not honorable. Something's really wrong here. So I like that. Thank you for pointing that out. Blessed in every area of my life says, no father and unavailable mother that has caused so much pain. She befriended my ex-husband, mistress that he had a baby on with me. I'm done with her for life. I mean, I would be too, unless there's some explanation, but I don't know how she's going to back that up. I think that's just so disrespectful, and I'm very sorry you had to deal with that. I'm not even sure how I would manage that, and I'm a therapist. So I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. Okay, let me make sure I'm following. Yeah, thank you, Karen, you for quoting that scripture. Thank you. Penny C, hello, welcome to the chat. So glad to see you on here. Okay, let me keep going. Ooh, okay. So, hi, Crystal T. I don't know if I said hello to you yet. Welcome to the chat. Says, It Didn't Start With Me by Mark Wolyn, Wolyn, for those of you who may have missed her post there. She says, it has taught me how to reparent myself. Thank you so much for that. So, I'm going to repeat that. It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wolyn. I'm probably saying his name wrong. Hi, Fairy Girl. So nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Bowen Family Systems, helpful. Yeah, that's a good one. If you guys Google Bowen, Bowen, family systems, theories and concepts, you might find some helpful tools there as well. Okay, let me keep going, guys. Hello, Caitlin Brown. So glad to see you. Welcome to the chat. Krista B asks a question. She says, what if you are traumatized throughout life to early childhood, to early adulthood? Well, I mean, let me try to tackle that because I'm not sure I fully understand the question. What if you are traumatized throughout life to early adulthood? I mean, I think even in that sense, you can kind of walk away at some point and reparent yourself. You really? Oh wow, just ignore that, okay? That happens all the time. I'm like recording YouTube videos and the list goes on. So I think even with a traumatized childhood, even to early adulthood, you can still kind of walk away, excuse me, and reparent yourself. It doesn't really matter. I think too, you want to keep in mind that in order to reparent yourself, you have to have explored and processed what has happened to you. Because if you come out of trauma, and then go right into trying to reparent yourself, you might miss some important steps you need to take. So, you might have to kind of pump the brakes just a little bit and just, come out of that trauma, process it, understand yourself a little bit better, and then go into reparenting yourself. All right, I have like 900 comments on here I want to get to, but let's get back to the content. All right, guys. So we left off at the three phases of reparenting yourself. Let me give you some thoughts on how you can reparent yourself. Okay. So the first thing that I suggest is recognizing and suggesting that recognizing and accepting, excuse me, guys, it's just been a long day. Recognizing and accepting that one important thing that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, which is your emotional age. Recognizing and accepting your emotional age. I think we've gone over that enough. I'm going to move on to the next one. Practice mindfulness. So here's what I mean by that. Mindfulness does not have to be the humming and the sitting and the processing. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. It could be as simple as I'm going to go journal. I'm going to go read a really good book that causes me to process and think. I'm going to go take a nap under a tree on a nice day and just close my eyes and experience nature and experience, that relaxing moment of just being by myself or hearing the birds chirp or experiencing the sun on my skin, whatever. You can practice mindfulness and really engaging in your immediate environment without having to do this, like really structured meditation, crossing your legs and doing the whole 9 yards. You don't have to do that at all. Now, there's a reason why I and many providers in the field suggest mindfulness for reparenting yourself. And that's because when you practice mindfulness, you also begin to awaken all of your thoughts and your feelings and your memories and your emotional experiences just because you're taking that piece of your life back for yourself, right? Because we're constantly busying ourselves and running in life and meeting others' expectations and trying to stay true to our commitments, that we lose a part of ourselves. We lose that most important part of ourselves, and it's hard for us to recognize us sometimes. So when you pause, pump the brakes, practice meditation, it awakens those parts of you, excuse me, that may have died at some point, or it reawakens that part of you that you need to reparent. Okay, so that's why we suggest practicing mindfulness. Now, the next thing is consider a trauma timeline. Now, you can do a trauma timeline with a therapist, or you could do it by yourself. Here's what a trauma timeline really is. Okay, you got a piece of paper. You go back in your memory as far as you can. Let's say it was age 5 where your trauma started. You want to start at age 5 and work your way up to your age at the present moment, right? So from 5 to 50, let's say, for example. Once you plot out your age, and you may want to do this, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up to your age, or you can, do it in chunks, right? Between ages 5 and 10, between ages 16 and 20, whatever works for you. You plot your age on a piece of paper, then you process little by little the content of what has happened to you. 5 was when my mother slammed my fingers in the door and called me a mistake, right? 10 is where my dad molested me. 16 is where I was sexually assaulted. 20 is when I got on marijuana and heroin at the same time, right? So you want to plot that all out. Once you do that and you have a little bit of a timeline of the different experiences of trauma that impacts you, then go back again, reread it, and fill in those holes. And what this does is it shows you your trauma over time, and it allows you to kind of have a template or a foundation so that you can begin the healing process. I would suggest that if you're going to do a trauma timeline, that you look it up first. You go to Google and figure out what's the best way to do it. You can even go to Google and type in trauma timeline template and follow a therapeutic template by yourself, or you can take it to a therapist. My clinical suggestion is to go to a therapist and say, my name is A, B, and C. This is my trauma. I'm really interested in doing a trauma timeline. Okay, that's the best way to do it. Okay, so the next one, recall good memories and experiences. So when you are reparenting yourself, there's a lot of pain involved in that, because now you have to accept that you really are, quote unquote, alone. You have to accept that your trauma has happened. You have to accept that your parent is not who you would like them to be or who you wish that they would be, right? Is that the same thing? Maybe it is. I don't know. There's a lot of reality that you have to click into when you recognize, okay, I need to reparent myself here. I'm missing some pieces of what I feel I should have had. So if that's happening, then you want to be able to recall some good memories and experiences over time as well, so that you're not burdening yourself with this huge burden of, my life is just a mess, you know? So there's some psychology to that. You want to remember the good things. It's difficult sometimes, right? And it can be, but you want to make sure that you go back in your mind and point out those good experiences, because they're in there. Think of that trauma timeline, right? There's some good stuff in there, I'm sure. It's just you have to be able to zone in on it. Let me pause here before we continue. And I think this is, hello, Kay. I think this is Kay. How do I get to, oh my goodness. Okay, wait a minute. I'm going to mess this up. Hold on, guys. Okay, let me see. No, I don't want that. Oh my God, I'm so bad at this. Krista B, thank you so much for that sweet contribution. I appreciate that. I was trying to click and see if you like wanted me to answer a question, because whenever you guys are so sweet to donate to me, or you contribute to helping me keep my channel alive financially, which is fantastic. I very much appreciate that. When you do that, YouTube puts you at the top for me to pay attention to. So I was trying to see if you had a question there, but I don't think you do. But thank you so much for that. That's so, so sweet. Okay, let me, oh Lord, I'm going to mess this up. Hold on. It's so many, I wish you could see my end of things. It's like so many comments that I can't keep up. Aesthetic Butterfly says, I was 3 years old. So that is the stage at which your trauma occurred. So then you want to ask yourself, Aesthetic Beauty, if 3 is where my trauma occurred, then is my inner child a 3-year-old? And if so, in what ways? And it may be helpful for you to jot that down in a journal or on a piece of paper. Here's how I see myself acting like a 3-year-old and thinking like a 3-year-old and experiencing life like a 3-year-old. And it may help you to really, kind of psychoanalyze and process that piece of you. It's a little bit of self-awareness. Breezy Beezy, the wise warrior, welcome to the chat. So glad to see you. Thank you for all those hearts. So sweet. I'm going to keep going, guys, because I want to make sure I get your comments. Yeah, Fairy Girl says, treat you. Oh, geez. Come on, YouTube. I think Fairy Girl said, treat yourself as you would your loved ones. I'm going to paraphrase Fairy Girl. Treat yourselves as you would your loved ones. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Sorana Tari, welcome to the chat. So glad to see you as well. Old Apple Orchard, welcome to the chat. Tree Fog, welcome to the chat. I don't remember seeing you. Says, a few things I have learned is we all have narcissistic traits. Is what we do with them makes us who we are. Okay, so let me paraphrase that. So I think you're saying we all have narcissistic traits, but it's what we do with them that makes us who we are. I mean, okay, so let me paraphrase that clinically. Okay, so there's a spectrum of narcissism, and we can all fall along that spectrum. However, we do not all have narcissistic traits. Narcissists have a very specific way that they engage with and think about the world. And so we're not all like that. And that's why a lot of us get thrown off and and really shocked when we are in a relationship with a narcissist, or we realize we have a family member or a loved one who's a narcissist, because we don't think that way, right? So yes, we can all fall along that spectrum of narcissism at some point, but do we all have narcissistic traits? No. There's some people who are very humble and modest, and they wouldn't dare think of being, arrogant and pompous, right? So we kind of have to be careful with how we phrase things when it comes to narcissists and personality disorders, because there's a reason why it's a disorder, and that's because something is really wrong there. So just wanted to piggyback off that, and just kind of make sure that I clarify that. All right, guys, my computer is like, please plug me in or I'm gonna die. Hello, Kyra knows 144. Welcome to the chat. So glad to see you. Courtney Frazier, welcome to the chat. Glad to see you as well. Says, excuse me, I need some water here. Parents should not say that kind of thing to a child. She also treats me like a child instead of an adult. I'm an adult. She does not seem to respect me as an adult. At least I don't think she does. I mean, if this is a parent, I think you did mention that it's a parent, then that makes a lot of sense why she would treat you as a child. I think some parents fail to realize that treating your adult child like a child is not going to help the situation. And if you feel that they're being immature in some ways, then treat them like an adult, and maybe it'll rub off on them. I always discourage my parents to stop treating their adult children like a child, because it just stirs the pot, creates tension, and things just don't get any better. So I'm really sorry that you're dealing with that. That's not easy at all. All right. I probably should hook up my charger, even though that we are getting ready to wrap up here. Sean Hammer, welcome to the chat. Glad to see you tonight. Thank you for the hearts. Auntie Lou says you can use your diary or your journal as a reference if you do a trauma timeline. I started a diary in my early teens. I still have it. That's an excellent point. Thank you for saying that. Yes, same here. I had a diary. My diary was like psychoanalyzing my family members. Let me go get my charger. Hold on. It was psychoanalyzing my family members, and let me tell you, I figured out who my brother was. I really did. I'm like, okay, that's what's wrong with him. So hopefully he's not watching. Hopefully he's not. All right. So Fairy Girl, thank you for the dab. I see that. I love that. I love it. I love it. My kids, some of my kids that come here, they do that all the time because they know I love it. Okay. Let me keep going, guys. Courtney Fraser says, "I do not feel close to her at all. She seems to love me, but not." Yeah. So maybe she's a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde personality, and that is not okay. It's hard to keep up with a parent who switches in and out of character and personalities. It just is. Karen, oh geez, what did I do? Bear with me, guys. Okay. Karen Yu says, thanks for the trauma timeline suggestions. I was thinking of doing that recently and wondered what's the best way to do that, as memory isn't always chronological. Yeah, sure. Welcome, Karen Yu. As a matter of fact, I'll make a note to self when I get home. It'll probably pop back to me. But I will go ahead and put a link to the trauma timeline in the description box below for you. Okay. That way you can just click on that link and boom, there's a clinical version of a trauma timeline. Again, I highly suggest doing this with a professional, but if you can't, fine. I would try it out yourself and kind of see what comes up for you. Terry Jubilee, keeping the conversation alive. Thank you so much for that. I feel like I don't thank you enough for contributing, and the rest of you for keeping the conversation alive. So thank you for that to all of you. Caitlin Brown says, I'm in my last year of college now, and I've been writing validating letters from my inner child perspective with my adult self, helping her. It is helpful. Yes. Oh my God, we should switch chairs right now, because that was another thing that I was going to suggest as a way to kind of reparent yourself, which is, write a letter to that inner child. Say all the things to that inner child your parent didn't say to you. Write a letter with all those things that maybe you wished your parent would have said to you. Put that down in the letter to your inner child, and you can do that. I used to do with my adolescent clients who were emotionally, psychologically, sexually abused, once we would do some therapy and learn some coping skills, I would have them write a long letter to their inner child and we would read it together. And then they would put it in an envelope and put it away. And then I would encourage them, go back and revisit it after 9 years and see how far you've come. So that's another way to do that. I like that. I think that's fantastic. Citizen King says, I believe that we all have a bit of narcissism in us, some more severe than others. Oh, yeah. Again, it's that spectrum, right? It's following along that spectrum. We're not all narcissistic and we don't all have narcissistic traits, but can we fall on that spectrum? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's so much comments in here, guys. Oh my God. Thank you, Auntie Lou. She says, oh, let me look at this. Hold on. Let me make sure I'm covering this correctly because I don't want to be like, thank you so much. And you're talking to somebody else. Okay, that would be narcissistic if you ask me. Okay, Auntie Lou says, wow, then you were meant to be a therapist. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if you're talking to me, Auntie Lou. If so, thank you so much for that. Um, Let me show your comment, Sean Hammer. YouTube is censoring you. Hi, George. Nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Just saw you. Yeah. Okay. I see why YouTube I see why YouTube is censoring you, Sean. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to remove that. And it's no shade to you, Sean Hammer. I'm just going to remove that because if YouTube catches that, then they're either going to bar you from my channel because it has happened and I wasn't happy about it, or some other weird stuff is going to happen when you try to comment. So I'm going to take your comment away, but you're expressing your deep emotion about what has happened. I feel that. I see that. All right, so let me show George's comment. YouTube is like censoring some of you tonight. I'm like, what? George says, hi guys, hi Tam, love you all. Yes, hello, love you too. Thank you so much for your support of the channel. Jacob P, how can I get a consultation with you? Please go to the description box below, email me, and I will try to get back to you. I'm still trying to get back to many of you. I am booked with clients for the rest of the year. So I'm scheduling consultations into January. So feel free to email me at my email and I'll go ahead and respond. All right, let's wrap this up, guys, because I got to get out of here literally in the next 7 minutes. I feel like I'm always in a rush to get out of here, but I have to. So we left off at, kind of incorporating those positive memories and those positive experiences. The next thing I suggest is engulf yourself in self-knowledge. I've mentioned some books tonight on this channel. You guys have mentioned some books on this channel to go check into. The more you empower yourself with self-knowledge, the stronger you become. Knowledge is also a wonderful tool and a weapon against trauma because the more you learn about what happened to you, the less you're going to blame yourself. The more you learn about what happened to you, the less afraid you're going to be, the less regretful you're going to be, the less guilt prone you're going to be, right? So let's say that this is your trauma, right? Education distances you from that trauma. And that's really what you want to digest as you reparent yourself, that the more knowledge you have, it distances you in many ways from the trauma and the impact of that trauma. My next suggestion is to watch and be careful with labels. That's why I corrected the view tonight of narcissism, because labels can become detrimental, right? Because even clinicians like myself with 14 plus years of experience can really get the labels mixed up. And there are times where I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I diagnosed this person with bipolar disorder, but now I'm thinking bipolar too, or I diagnosed that person with schizoaffective disorder. And now I'm thinking schizophrenia because of all this criteria they're meeting. So a lot of times we as professionals kind of skate around with diagnoses every now and then. And so for you guys, utilizing complicated labels, can really make things worse for you, right? You may be tagging yourself complex PTSD and it's nowhere near that. You may be tagging yourself dissociative identity disorder and it's not that. You may be tagging yourself as someone with schizophrenia and it may not be that. So be a little careful with labels so you're not adding more burden and pressure to yourself. Allow yourself to feel your emotions. I think reparenting yourself is going to really bring up a lot of emotions. And in order to manage those emotions and learn and grow from those emotions, you have to be able to feel them. I have clients now and in the past, and people who are consulting with me, and even interns I'm training who come to me and they say things like, I don't want to cry, I don't want to cry. Or they'll say something like, I can't believe I'm crying right now, or they'll say, oh, my emotions are so stupid. And I jump on that. I jump on that opportunity to say, first of all, your emotions are not stupid. They are normal. Secondly, it's okay to feel your emotions. That's how you grow. That's how you heal. Now, my mom is a different bird, okay, for lack of a better word, because she feels like sometimes if you cry it makes you feel weaker. Sometimes if you revisit the trauma in the past, sometimes that hurts you a little bit more than if you were to just keep moving on. But I highly suggest juggling the pros and cons of that. Guys, is it better if I don't look at this and move forward and reparent, or is it better if I go back and feel my emotions and then reparent? So that's something for you to juggle. Rebuild your self-esteem, trauma, dysfunctional family dynamics, the list goes on, rudeness, callousness, prejudice, discrimination. I have all of that in my family. That can really break your self-esteem down. So rebuild your self-esteem. Also, you want to be careful with getting sucked into daily life and responsibility so much that you lose sight of who you are. So you want to stay connected to you so that you can reparent yourself. A big component of reparenting yourself is compassion. And if you're not showing yourself self compassion, then you can't reparent yourself. So self compassion can come in the form of, I'm taking Wednesday off because I need to sleep, or I'm going to eat that delicious thing and then go work out at the gym. Self compassion could be, okay, I failed that work exam, but it's because of A, B, and C, and it's okay. I'll do better next time. Self compassion, that is essential to reparenting yourself. All right, guys, let me look at your comments before we sign off tonight. And I will come back with this topic. It's a lot to digest, and I only touch the surface. Okay. So let me know in the comment section below if you want me to bring this topic back live or even in a video. Okay. Geneva Garnett, welcome to the chat. So glad to see you. Says, thank you, Tamara, for the live chat. You're welcome. You're welcome. So glad to see you too. Oh, geez. YouTube, I swear, if you hit one button, it just bounces all over the place. A Sarana Tyree. Oh my God, I have it 1 minute and the next I mess it up. I'm sorry. Says, my mother went through a lot with my grandparents, and they were like Dr. Jekyll with me and Mr. Hyde with her. Sometimes I see a glimpse of the old people, but I have no idea what is on the inside. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's so what's the word, destabilizing, to see your parents act one way and then when they get around your grandparents act another way. It's destabilizing, to say the least. Aesthetic Beauty says, narcissistic parents also ignore your emotions and are selfish. Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of videos on this channel that I've done over the past year that have really gained a lot of popularity, and it's jealous parents and jealous family and parents who simply don't care. And so go back over my channel and look at those things, because it's going to point out what Aesthetic Beauty is saying here, which is narcissistic parents ignore your emotional health or your emotions and your self-esteem. Crystal T is my co-therapist tonight, and she says, place your hands on your heart and tell your inner child everything she needed to hear. Love it. Yeah, that's something you can do as well. I do that with little kids. I really do. And it works. It works. Yeah, thank you, Auntie Lou. She says, yes, be careful about some of the words you use. YouTube picks up on some darker words. They do, and it's horrible. But they're trying to do a service for the content creators. Hi, Sunflower Heather. I've noticed you have not been on the channel, and I've missed you. So glad to see you. She says, yeah, I'm so sure. I'm sure. I had a feeling it had something to do with that, Sunflower Heather. But I'm glad to see you tonight. Jacob P says, do you know any psychologists like you in Texas? Oh, that's so flattering. I don't, but I will try to post some things in the description box, okay? Because there are some therapists who are trained like me for sure. So I will point those out. Auntie Lee says, thank you, Tamara. Get some rest. We appreciate you. Yes, you're welcome. Thank you so much. I'm going home right now. Caitlin Brown says, knowledge is power. Okay. Yes, yes. Karen uses. Thank you, Tamara. Thanks, family. We can heal. Absolutely. You're welcome, Jacob P. Hello, Rachel Murphy. Welcome to the chat. I see you're on here. All right, guys. I have to sign off. I could stay on here with you guys forever. I say this every live chat. Like, I don't know how I got blessed with such a wonderful channel of supportive people. And that is genuinely from my heart. I don't even know how that happened. So I consider you guys a blessing. Thank you so much. Much love to you. I will see you either in a video on Sunday or the next live chat. So stay tuned. Good night, guys.